That's that's fantastic. I mean, that's something that I think resonates very, very, very strongly. That in many instances we do see the problems being addressed almost like a mathematical issue, whereas the quantitative approach of resolving a problem cannot be, in this particular scenario, it is going to be benefited if it's viewed with that qualitative sense and that qualitative perspective, which is something that I think in the conversations that I have with you as well, I feel very lucky to be able to sort of to corroborate that those feelings of looking at things as a more systemic approach are the ones that's the correct approach to take, because that's the perspective that is really going to help us achieve those specific challenges. But
I mean, think about it, Sean. Sean, think about it. I mean, we already have a major human crisis. We need to think about the 7 million children that died needlessly every year of preventable diseases and starvation. 825 million people go to bed feeling hungry every night. Now, you know, and that's gone up by 25 million. And there's 1 billion people that still do not have regular access to safe water. So we have to think about them, not just us.
And Brighton, help us from, you're from the Global South. You are clearly somebody that at age 14 has done some incredible feats already as it relates to communicating and helping people understand the severity of the problems. As in your position now, you're back in Zambia now. Very briefly, I must say, you're getting married. I hope it's okay to say that. I'm very, very excited that you agreed to join the conversation with us, even with your very, very busy schedule. But how would you talk to your 14-year-old self, having gone and done everything that you have done now? What empowered you as a 14-year-old to take the drive, to drive yourself to do all the things that you were doing with really no views of what opened up as it relates to opportunities? You're one of those examples that just shines through, and I'd love to hear your perspective in terms of how you view your journey from age 14, passionate with no expectations, to where you are today.
Thank you so much, Sean. I think it's very exciting to listen to incredible thoughts and ideas and experiences that are coming out in this conversation. I think something that my both colleagues have highlighted very succinctly is the aspect of context. I think context matters in every situation, including the climate crisis that we're confronting. So many young people currently have become very conscious of their environments. They've become environmentally conscious. They've become socially conscious. And not only has the climate crisis helped us become more conscious, the COVID-19 pandemic, racial injustices globally have helped us become very aware of all these systemic challenges in society. But also, when I look at my own experience coming from Zambia, being in an environment and growing up in an environment where whenever you wanted to cross the streets, the gray hairs would be so thick, and that's simply the sulfur dioxide which has been emitted from cobalt mining, from copper mining, from gold mining, all existing in the neighborhood in which I was raised. But that wasn't just something I was experiencing and being affected by personally. There were other young people, community members that were being affected by all these challenges. When you go to central Zambia, children ended up having lead in their blood. The amount of lead in their blood was quite higher because there was lead mining and kids would play in the dirt. So you discover that specific communities are concerned about specific aspects of how, like Professor described, we are deadening the planet and throwing trash in other people's bedrooms. And I think it begins from realizing that no one is okay until we are all okay, irrespective of where we are globally. And we are seeing communities that are being affected being closed out of specific boardrooms, being closed out of specific conferences, not having representation and inclusion when discussing the future of our planet. And I think for me, what really inspired me from the beginning was realizing that I can play a role, I can spark and ignite that inspiration, that ripple effect that can allow community members and other young people to see themselves as positive agents of change. And I think it begins from recognizing that irrespective of where I am in this house called planet Earth, I have a particular role that I can play individually. If I'm in government, if I'm an activist in the community, if I'm in academia, if I am in energy and engineering, all of us have got an incredible role to play. But one question, Sean, that we need to ask ourselves when addressing these challenges is, who are the ones left behind? Is it the indigenous people who are left behind? Is it young people of color who are left behind? Is it women who are left behind? Is it girls who are left behind? When we answer that question, then let's go back to those who are left behind and start the conversation from there and ask them how they would want to see the planet, and ask them what are their aspirations, and ask them what are the challenges they're being confronted with, and ask them about the solutions, because the solutions lie there. Thank you.
That's what a great way. And as we're reaching the end of this conversation, and I mean, well said, Brighton. This is just also gotten fairly very moved by your words, and it lends me. I mean, we're at the very end of a very busy day with Peace One Day. We are the warming act to NK and Sting after this. Want to make sure that we transition into a little bit of optimism. We know that this is a very, very serious problem. We know that we have to act. We have so much that we need to do. But Jordan, and I'll go through I'll ask you all the same question, but what keeps you optimistic about the climate movement?
Definitely young people in this space, and Brighton just proved that with his very moving response to your question. And I think, you know, another thing that definitely inspires me and keeps me going in this space is the connection to land. And I think there's a lot of teachings that we can get from that. And so in saying that, there is definitely more attention that needs to be paid to Indigenous people around the world. As Brighton said, you know, who are the people being left behind? I think for far too long, and you look at the history of Canada and many other countries, we're founded on resource extraction. We're founded on the energy sector itself, right? I know in my backyard we have uranium, and we need to change the narrative in which Indigenous people exist in these spaces. And so I think, you know, language matters. And in my culture, you know, we say storyteller. And in the mainstream, that means historian. We say medicine person. And the mainstream, that means doctor. We say we say knowledge keeper. Mainstream, that's engineer. You know, and so I think we use these romanticized words in culture to create this narrative of different silos. And we, both speakers today have touched on that a little bit. And I think if we just open up our circle and include everybody and all perspectives, because I think science comes from the understanding of which culture or which person comes to understand that, right? And we have different ways and completely different languages in which we understand science and the way that the earth works. And so moving forward, I challenge you to take a look around you at the people that, you know, take up all of these spaces in the energy sector, BIPOC people from different nations than yours, and look at some of their science as their people understand it. I think you'll find really, really beautiful understandings of, you know, how to better protect the earth and how to better, you know, be energy kin and support each other.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, Professor Maslin, in a couple of words, what keeps you optimistic?
Jordan and Brighton and youth leaders all around the world who have taken up the fight, and we're running out of time. They're the ones that keep me optimistic and keep me fighting.
Good answer. Brighton, same question.
What keeps me optimistic is when I go back to my community and I look children in the eyes and I see nothing but hope. And I hope I can contribute to them being successful.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for this panel. We appreciate the partnership with Peace One Day. Thank you.